Okay, let's see if I can get this bottom one out without any problems. What I really need is a socket Allen, which I don't have. Nope, it seems like it's not going to cooperate. We'll try these smaller ones first. Nope. Well, that moved it a little bit. And I squished the brass so I can't put the Allen back on it. Okay, it's moving. Okay, so that's removed. So now I got to figure out, I think it's best just to, I have a donor valve bank. I think it's best just to steal fittings off that donor valve bank than to try to break anything loose here. Okay, so here's my old valve bank from Pasquale. I was thinking about selling this thing, but it's one of those things that it's worth more as parts than if I would sell it. So I'm just going to remove these two fittings and see what happens. What do you think? Do you think I'm going to break it off, or do you think it's going to just break loose? For those of you following at home, I put a 7/16 on it. Something is turning. Okay, so do you think I got lucky? I guess we'll find out. And I just want to point out, you know, these are all brass fittings. So even though I'm using a 7/16, I'm specifically using a 6-point socket. So a 6-point socket has the much more surface area. If you use any more than 6 points, it's only going to be gripping the brass fitting on the edges, and it increases the chance of stripping it out. Okay. So let's go back to this one over here. Now the question is, do you think I need to put thread tape on this? Let me think about this. We're using a brass fitting. Should I put thread tape? You know, I don't think it's gonna hurt. Even if I just put a little bit on it. So the thing about thread tape is you want it to go on the direction you screw the fitting on, if that makes any sense. So then that way it stays on. If you do it the other way, it's going to try to push the thread tape off instead of lock it in. Okay. So then I'm going to tighten it up. Now you want a snug fit to create a good seal, but at the same time, you got to remember you're working with a brass fitting, so you can strip out a brass fitting. So it's hard to say how much to torque it down, and I'm not an expert either. I mean, if you were working on this day in and day out, you would know. But notice, because I'm working with a brass fitting, I'm not gripping the wrench up here, because gripping the wrench up here, I'm going to have a lot more leverage and I can't feel it. So I grip the wrench down here. And sometimes, in certain situations, you might want to switch to a 1/4 inch ratchet. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten it up so it's parallel with the other fittings. So I'm just going to leave it like that because the other fittings have like 4 threads showing. So I'm going to leave it with 4 threads showing. Okay, so then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's the 6 we're going to use. We're actually going to use 5 because this one's for head raise. But this method of bending the tube up against each other and zip tying it is actually a pretty effective method to sealing off the ports. And of course you only need to seal off one port unless you energize the valve, or unless the valve has a lot of blow-by. So these bigger hoses, which I think were for the Spider, I mean, we could look that up, but I think they were for the Spider, maybe, possibly. I can't. That'll be a harder hose to block off, so I think I'm gonna try to remove them. Okay, it's 7/16. Yep, they can remove. So I'm just gonna remove the fitting, so I can put a different fitting on. So let me think about this. I wonder if I can remove one of these. Okay, the easiest thing for me to do was just to steal another fitting. Okay. Putting this back here just for aesthetics, I guess. Okay, so we have the right amount of hoses. So I guess let me clean up a bit. I always like to keep a clean workbench. The problem is when you have such a small piece of hose on there, you can't get any leverage to take it off. So you want to try to cut it without etching in the actual fitting. Maybe a needle nose will get it. So. Okay, cool. And then these go on here like that. Cool. Okay. Yeah, that valve bank's ready to go. It actually, well, it's ready to go mechanically, I guess I should say. Now we got to move on to getting it wired up electrically. If you use a flush cutter, it leaves no sharp edge on the tie wrap. So if you're ever in here with your knuckles, you can't get cut if you cut it with a flush edge. If you don't do that, you might know what I mean. And actually, there's a problem. I just noticed there's a hole in the hose. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably just cut the hose here because it's still plenty of length for my needs, and then put this connector on this end. And eventually I just had to replace all the hoses because, you know, when the hoses are, what, 40 years old now, it might, is that right? 83? 93, 103, 113. So they're like 37 years old. You know, they're just going to be dry rotted. And this razor blade I'm using is a little dull. Well, I had to put some WD-40 on this. Yeah, I think that WD-40 will work pretty good. You need to try to at least get it on the second barb. Let me just... Okay, need like a half an inch. me grab some channel locks. We're right there. Yeah, if I can't get it, I can always cheat, and I have enough on it to put a hose clamp on it. I guess I'm too weak. I can always I can get a hose clamp, put a hose clamp on it, and then don't worry about it.